Canada isn't just the land of ice hockey and maple syrup, surprisingly. It's also given the world grade A inventions, like the prosthetic hand, the PC programming script Java, and the pacemaker, preventing maple syrup-induced heart attacks since 1950. Now the Great White North has yet again imagined another ingenious innovation. And no, it isn't Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, or his sexy eyebrows. But this innovation might save the most essential element of our existence, the air we breathe. CNBC, June 7th, 2018, announces that the Canadian company Carbon Engineering, along with a team of chemists, has discovered a cheap way to extract carbon dioxide from the air and turn it into fuel in a creative process with a less than creative name, AirtoFuels. David Keith, founder of Carbon Engineering, highlights to BBC News, June 7th, 2018, that this is a real step forward, and it isn't just our company saying it. Today, we'll cut Mother Earth's killer carb count, that is, carbon count, with AirtoFuels, because she could use our cooperation to reduce critical amounts of carbon emissions in our environment. First, we'll push aside petroleum and discuss the process of AirtoFuels. Second, we'll smog check challenges threatening to halt its progress. And third, we'll foresee a future free of fossil fuels. The Canucks aren't the first to turn trash into treasure. The ancient Egyptians attempted to convert stone into gold with a process called alchemy, similar to the process of AirtoFuels, which aims to convert CO2 into synthetic reusable fuel. Since the Egyptians, the world has seen global temperatures rise from petroleum-burning cars, airplanes, and factories, which release an astronomical amount of pollution. On October 8th, 2018, the United Nations illustrates that climate change will result in rising sea levels, devastating droughts, severe storms, extreme heat, wildfires, pest outbreaks, floods, famine, disease, and refugee crises. It's not just the plot of a B-list movie, as Armageddon-like conditions have already affected people like Pablo Figueroa, 63, from Puerto Rico. Hurricane Maria forced him to live upstairs as raw sewage and stormwater flooded his home. He weeps to the New York Times, September 20th, 2018. My house looked like a filthy pool. To prevent greenhouse gas growth, Carbon Engineering CEO Steve Oldham tells Science Daily, June 7th, 2018, we're going to have to remove 20 billion tons of carbon dioxide annually, forever. However, scientists at Harvard University and Carbon Engineering have developed AirtoFuels to recycle carbon dioxide, and it sucks. Literally. The Atlantic, June 7th, 2018 outlines the process. First, outside air is sucked through massive solar-powered fans, where it's exposed to a pH-basic liquid. Because CO2 is a weak acid, it's naturally attracted to the base. It's pretty basic. Second, this now carbon dioxide-rich liquid separates from the acid and is then frozen into solid tiny pellets, which are then heated up to release the purified CO2. Finally, during fuel synthesis, scientists combine this pure CO2 with hydrogen, extracted from water, and convert these two chemicals into liquid fuels, simulating gasoline, diesel, and even jet fuel. This operation has demonstrated dynamic development. CBC News, June 7th, 2018, explains that Carbon Engineering's plant now extracts 1 ton of carbon from the air daily, which yields 2 barrels of fuel. The fuel only burns the same CO2 that created it, rendering the AirtoFuels process as completely carbon neutral. In the ancient Egyptians' pursuit of alchemy, their golden process also had a rocky start, facing the very same challenges threatening AirtoFuels, including 1, dependence on outdated resources, 2, high costs, and 3, dispute about potential scale. One concern confronting AirtoFuels is that society is dependent on petroleum to power its vehicles. The World Economic Forum, February 5th, 2018, admits that the challenge is that electric vehicles are really only suited for short travel, while long-distance transport planes, trains, and automobiles still need that high power density from fossil fuels. Beyond petroleum dependence, a 2018 Gallup poll reveals that less than half think global warming poses a serious threat in their lifetime, a mindset that leads many to overlook measures of improvement and completely disregard the air-to-fuels process. Additionally, the high cost of air-to-fuels may outweigh its benefits. Bloomberg, May 17, 2018, uncovers that we're going to need more than 400,000 expensive carbon removal fan facilities in order to cancel out just 1% of current emissions, which at our present rate of pollution may prove unfeasible. Some aren't the biggest fan. Despite AirtoFuel's efforts to reduce smog, its potentially unrealistic cost may not help the global emission rate felt worldwide. Zhu Yi, climate researcher and Beijing resident, laments to NPR December 18, 2018, "We might still have days where the air is terrible." Finally, there's no way to know for certain if AirtoFuels can scale quickly enough to reduce CO2 levels. The European Academy's Science Advisory Council, February 28, 2018, contends that it's only carbon neutral and only recycles the same CO2 over and over again. But it's not carbon negative, a process that would actually take the CO2 from the atmosphere and remove it entirely. Carbon removal pioneer Klaus Lackner sums it up in Wired magazine, June 7, 2018. Throwing a life preserver to a drowning victim may not guarantee a successful result. Although the ancient Egyptians eventually had to put alchemy in its eternal sarcophagus, their chemical conversion attempts paved a golden road for chemists in the future, much like the future for AirtoFuels, featuring 1, widespread availability, 2, carbon management education, and 3, a keto diet for Mother Earth. Yeah, less carbs. When AirtoFuels becomes widely available, you can keep using the same car you've always driven, but the carbon footprint will be completely eliminated. The Boston Globe, June 13, 2018, verifies that this synthetic fuel can be produced at a cost that isn't going to raise prices at the pump, preventing consumers from ruining both the environment and their finances. As college students, we're often forced to choose between buying microwavable food and gas. With AirtoFuels, we won't have to choose, and we'll still get gas. Yeah, top ramen doesn't sit well. Additionally, AirtoFuels could promote carbon management as a field of study. David Keith, founder of Carbon Engineering, advocates to National Geographic, June 7, 2018. "This isn't going to save the world from climate change, but it's going to be a big step. In fact, it might even be the wake-up call that we need." Matt Lucas, Associate Director at the Center for Carbon Removal in Washington, D.C., Last Access, March 24, 2019, illuminates that nobody majors in carbon management right now, but that might become a growth industry. Finally, AirtoFuels could give Mother Earth the low-carb diet she deserves. Less carbon pollution could help cities like Karachi, Pakistan, which suffered from a sweltering 128-degree heat wave last May because of heat trapped by extreme pollution, which turned the city into a furnace. With the death toll of 65 residents, Pakistani humanitarian Faisal Adi advises CNN, May 22, 2018, "In 15 years, this city won't be livable." With AirtoFuels, impoverished, overpopulated areas across the globe would no longer need to fear a lack of a future, much less one that isn't livable. Today, we fueled up and explored the AirtoFuels process. Second, we faced challenges threatening to combust its development. And third, we breathed a sigh of relief seeing the fresh future ahead of us. AirtoFuels could arm humankind with a new tool in the fight against global warming. Beyond any ongoing strife about race and religion, if we don't have a place where we can live comfortably, the world will only become a more hostile place. Many hope to bring children into a world where they can live and breathe safely. And while the Canadians can certainly attest that both maple syrup and Justin Trudeau are beautiful, with AirtoFuels, the future of our planet can be beautiful too.